If your soybeans are challenged, it may be because of the drought, not necessarily lack of water. But Illinois Soybean Association outreach agronomist Stephanie Porter says drought brings on problems with insects and disease.
I think we're all over the place, especially with planting dates as well. So I would say Western Illinois is pretty bad off, and also a little bit farther along in corn.
Okay. How about Northern Illinois? Do you see any soybean issues up there?
Not so much, it's just dry. We're not getting a lot of issues. So one of the things, though, we are getting reported in Northern Illinois that we haven't seen in a really long time, and this is closer to maybe the border of southern Wisconsin, is aphids, soybean aphids. So those are some things. We did get a report from somebody on Twitter on that. We just did actually an article at IL Soybean about scouting for aphids. And so get out there. They do like they're more often in dry temperatures, but they like it a little cooler too. So I'm hoping the heat maybe will knock some of those pests back.
Charcoal rot is a problem, apparently, in dry weather. Is that correct?
Yes, so I would say they're starting to report charcoal rot in areas of Missouri. So just think of maybe some of the soils maybe aren't as productive and higher stress, but they have had horrible drought. So I think that is a key for us if we don't get any more rain. To be worried about looking for charcoal rot. So this would in effect early on in wetter conditions, which I think we had some spring. It wasn't really, really wet, but we could have had conditions in some areas where it got infected by charcoal rot. And then when it starts to just get no rain, drought, and hot, that's when all of a sudden plants in kind of stressed areas of the field, maybe lower in nutrients, and maybe, not as good soil types, for example, higher populations, anything that can cause more stress to that plant, then they just all of a sudden just shut down. And you're like, what the heck is happening out there? There's some varieties that might be a little bit more susceptible than others, possibly. And so that's when you give your agronomist a call and ask what's happening. And so they're going to investigate and look for it. I think it can look a lot like Phytophthora, where it's a dead plant. So I think it's going to be a little bit harder to diagnose mid-season. It's a little easier as you get later in the season, and that's when we usually see it. But I think some people, again, are starting to see it show up just a little bit. And I think when you cut the stem open, especially later in the season, you're going to see it look like it's peppered almost, but sprinkled with black dots. And that's what to look for with charcoal rot.